they change their behavior, they wouldn't be paying it. See what I mean?
Oh yeah, the devil's always in the details.
Yeah, so I'm not
stuff.
100% the tax would be the best way for me to change the behavior, because there are too many players in the behavior mode that I have.
So carbon tax, you sound a little bit skeptical about, but
I would
gas
have
tax,
to work
you're
with,
definitely
gas tax,
that's
I'm definitely there.
Uh-huh.
Definitely, yeah. The carbon tax, I'd have to think about it more, because, you know, who's paying it and whose behavior am I changing? You know, it's getting back to a good government approach.
Right.
What's the problem? How are you trying to solve it? And
But you support like really strong mandatory renewable energy standards, right? I mean, a number of states have that. California just went up to, I believe, 33%. Arnold Schwarzenegger, pre-scandal and all that, when he was still governor, signed that into law to go. He was still governor, and he signed that.
when he still had a wit of sense, huh?
Well, I think that was about 10 years after he fathered that child. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. I guess, I don't know how much more time we have, but I you know,
Probably two.
I guess
2 more questions. Go ahead.
one that kind of ties a lot of this together is the Dillon rule. And I mean, do you think that, I mean, this is going to take a while to change this, but well, what do you generally think about the Dillon rule in Virginia and how it affects places like Arlington?
Yeah, the Dillon rule is pretty complicated. You know, it's this mindset that unless the local government has the authority specifically delegated to it,
they don't have it, then they don't
have it.
Right.
So the Dillon rule is ineffective in many areas. In some areas, I will say the local governments will never get the state to relax it. The folks that like the Dillon rule are folks that do business throughout the state, and they get to go to just the General Assembly, who they can more easily control.
Right, exactly.
It's one-stop shopping. I'm going to go to Committee X. I'm going to give them campaign contributions, and I'm going to get X. And X will apply across the state, and I won't have to deal with all these different boards of supervisors, and I'll be done. So there's that real, you know, momentum out there that we'd have to fight. And local governments really want relaxation of the Dillon rule when it comes to mandates. You know, because so often we're being
Unfunded
told,
that
you really have to do X. In Arlington, this is a case in point of the Dillon rule being ridiculous. In the late 70s, child care, you know, more moms were entering the workforce. It was a transformational decade in the 70s. You know, the women's movement, Gloria Steinem, and all that. Okay, so sort of
not to mention leisure suits and sideburns and stuff like that, but that's a whole other...
Yeah, right, that's another issue.
I remember that stuff.
Yeah, well, you're not
I'm old enough to remember
that. Not as young as I thought you were. So anyways...
well,
how'd you like that for a
I remember my father wearing leisure suits, but anyway. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Well,
that's a compliment.
I could say more wise. That's good. So,
not all bloggers actually are 20-year-old living in their parents' basement.
Right. You may have been around a little longer.
Well, I mean, I worked for the energy department for 17 years. I've done a lot of things, you know, and I've worked for the web campaign as a Netroots coordinator. I've done a number of things over the years since.
Let me just. I'll take you 2 seconds to finish my sentence. So, anyway, Arlington started licensing child care centers in the 70s, and we established criteria for the centers, and one of them was the educational level of the director. And we said they had a bachelor's degree. Well, we had no authority to do that. We had to go to Richmond and get a special legislative amendment to allow us to have a higher standard for child care directors, their educational level, than the state required.
So, in general, were you pushed to loosen up the Dillon rule to at least have minimum standards, I guess, but allow localities to go further in a better, progressive way or something? Like they want to have stronger building energy efficiency standards or whatever. That type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I actually believe that local government officials are held accountable by their voters. Nobody in Richmond believes that local officials are held accountable. In fact, we are held accountable. Some would argue more effectively than the lawmakers. You know, people actually know what we're doing. They see us in the supermarket, the church, the school, you know. So, I would absolutely want local governments to have the authority to do more,
right,
to go above the bar.
Okay, good. And then I guess how would you work to change Richmond more broadly? Would you, for example, would you have legislators be paid more in exchange for maybe having tougher restrictions on their ability to take money from lobbyists and others? Would you have them, the sessions go longer? Because right now it seems like the lobbyists are there all year round. The legislators, citizen legislators, get paid very little. They come in there for a few weeks. There's a million things they have to. I've heard this from I've heard this from delegates and senators have talked to me and complained to me about this. It's very frustrating to them. They don't have time to become an expert at practically even one thing, let alone 100 things.
And the fact of the matter is you end up trusting. So what happens is staff and lobbyists are making.
Lobbyists are there all year, and these people have a strong interest. These corporations, and industries, and certainly shaping the legislation their way. So what do you do to change this situation?
I would look at some other states and see what they do. I for one would like to have a longer legislative period. I would like the opportunity for lawmakers to actually delve into the issues, so you acquire some subject expertise. I mean, that's been one of the things, I've enjoyed in the county. I've focused on a couple of areas over my 14 years, and county staff is now turned over, and it would not be unusual in a meeting that I would know as much as a county staff person or more on a particular issue.
Interesting.
And so that the voters are actually getting my view because I had enough detail or knowledge, institutional memory, I've seen enough, I know that,
Which there's accountability potentially then, because we don't vote for the lobbyists. I didn't vote for a lobbyist.
No, you vote for the lawmakers. So we need to structure the General Assembly in a way where that lawmaker can best serve the constituents, where that lawmaker really can bring his or her best judgment, best informed judgment to the table. And it's really hard for them to get well informed because they do hear from a very noisy, select, well-financed group.
So so paying them more maybe in exchange for further tighter restrictions on. Would you be open to that?
I would be willing to look at all of that.
Okay. All right. Well,
finance reform has always been something I've been,
campaign finance.
Campaign finance that I have found appealing. I have always been amazed at how many times Congress passes campaign finance reform and they think they're solving problem A and another problem B pops up. So it's a messy issue, but I certainly would be open to looking at that.
Okay, well, thank you. And if is there anything else you'd like to? I'll just give you one last. If there's anything else you'd like to tell our readers, Blue Virginia, the progressive activist community in Virginia, you're welcome to, or if not,
I thought these were reasonable questions. I do hope you would look at my record. I would hope you didn't, just because I have experience and have the endorsement of some regional leaders, I would hope you wouldn't just write me off as being, status quo, because everybody is different and everybody does bring a different set of experiences and values, and I have a really good progressive record, and I don't intend on changing that when I go to the General Assembly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Should I say anything else?
It's up to you. I mean, the floor is yours. I'm happy to. Good thing about blogs is we've got no space limitations like newspapers do.
Right.
We have unlimited pixels, or whatever you want to call them. To
a couple of people who are involved in our campaign really do read your stuff quite a bit, and